Martin Scorsese's latest film has had a lot of press focused on the runtime, causing a huge debate as to whether 3 hours 26 is too long for a film that is released to the cinemas, and whether the movie-going experience should be shorter. The problem with such a discourse is that it fails to take into account whether the end product actually deserves or earns that time. Yes, this film is long, and yes, it feels every bit as long as it is. But I'll be damned if I can think of any moment within this whole feature that could have been excised in order to make it shorter. If anything, I found myself so immersed in this story and the characters within it that I would have happily sat through more. It's adapted from the book of the same name by David Gran. Killers of the Flower Moon tells the real-life tale of the murders that took place in the Osage Nation in the 1920s, and the manner in which they were covered up or disregarded by the authorities due to conspiracy and manipulation by oil barons who exploited the indigenous people of the nation. It's a heavy piece of material to adapt, and it tackles some sadly all too relevant themes of prejudice and corruption. The story primarily focuses on Ernest Burkhart, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, who returns from the war and seeks employment from his rancher uncle, William the King Hale, played by Robert De Niro, a landowner who has close, friendly ties with the Osage people. However, Ernest soon finds that his uncle's true intentions are to manipulate the wealth of the Osage for his own benefit, and he instructs Ernest to get close to Molly, played by Lily Gladstone, an Osage whose family owns a substantial share of the oil head rights. Ernest falls for Molly, and he must battle between his love for her and his sense of duty to his uncle, stepping closer to corrupting himself as he does so. As you'd expect from a master of cinema, Scorsese crafts a beautiful-looking film, packed with detail. Cinematography from Rodrigo Prieto is sumptuous throughout, with landscapes, environs, and interior locations all captured through wonderful lensing. The screenplay from Eric Roth and Scorsese paces perfectly to slowly build the tale, taking time to flesh out all the names involved and give depth to even the most minor of players. The music score layering a menacing tension underplaying key scenes keeps us uncertain as to everyone's true motives until the final act plays out the whole dissection of everything before it. The cast here are all on excellent form. And if the only criticism that can be levied is that DiCaprio occasionally, and very briefly it must be said, becomes almost a caricature, you know you are watching players at the top of their game. Lily Gladstone in particular is mesmerisingly brilliant throughout, from her quiet aloofness at the start, to the first genuine looks of joy and amusement, to her sorrows later on. Not one moment of her on screen is wasted. And even when not speaking, she conveys so much through simple glances or gestures. When working alongside heavyweights who have been under Scorsese's tutelage many times, it would be easy to get buried into the background, but she holds her own and casts a dominant shadow over even De Niro at times, making her the true star of this film. This is a compelling true story, presented by a master artist who rarely misses the mark. The final scene alone is a work of inventive majesty. True life films always end with a wrap up of what happened after the events, usually played out via holding cards of script on screen. Here, instead, we are swiftly thrust to a radio play being enacted in front of an audience, where the wrap up for a final episode of a dramatization is being delivered, with the final lines being read by the director, Scorsese himself, in such a heartfelt manner that if you hadn't broken emotionally before that point, you certainly will as the credits start to roll. This is 3 hours and 26 minutes of essential viewing, and whilst it be coming to Apple TV Plus in the not too distant future, it's one that deserves to be seen on the largest screen that you can find in a theatre. When you pick a film called Slotherhouse to sit down and watch, having read the basic synopsis of a sorority house adopting a sloth as a mascot only to find it starts to kill them one by one, you pretty much know what you're setting yourself up for, yeah? Yes, this is a ridiculous concept of a comedy horror, but it knows how ridiculous it is. And so it plays along with it to the extent that even the most savvy would not have expected. The concept for the film came about when writer Bradley Fowler wanted to come up with the dumbest idea he could think of, and it's safe to say he excelled here. There's not much plot to expand upon, just 93 minutes of crazy fun that anyone partial to other dumb concept movies such as Zombievers or Velocipasta will lap up with a big grin across their face. If I was to put my serious critic head on, I could mock the low rent dialogue. I could rip apart the sloppy acting, the comically bad effects. But in doing so, I'd be missing the point entirely. This film knows what it is, and it wants you to just sit back and laugh along as it tests the water of how silly it can get. And trust me, without spoilers, the manner in which the sloth itself, a cute yet cheaply animated puppet, kills the college kids gets really silly. As a result, I found myself enjoying this far more than it would have deserved if it tried to take itself too seriously. Remember Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey? Yeah. This was a fun-packed watch, and I can genuinely see me watching this one again. My dedication to Stephen King knows no bounds, and even though I've never been a fan of the book, the original film, and certainly not the most recent remake, I thought I'd give this prequel tale a chance. Set in the late 60s and focusing on Judd Crandall, it tells how he always dreamt of escaping his hometown until he discovered the dark secret of the cemetery in the woods and his family legacy as he connects with old friends to confront an ancient evil that plagues the town of Ludlow. Despite the presence of names such as Pam Grier and David Duchovny, this film is a bland, uninspired extension to the legacy of King's Tale, with nary a memorable character embedded throughout the short, yet drearily drawn out runtime. Atmosphere and menace, which the best of King Tales are packed with, is sidelined here for cheap shocks and bland gore. The film tries too hard to play the mystery of the burial ground, seemingly ignorant of the fact that the audience already know the mystery. So any attempt to build dread and mystery around it is just wasted. Why they thought this prequel was a wise move to make is anybody's guess, when the original film and the recent adaptation, of which this is closely linked to, already told us all we needed to know about Judd's past, is unsure. Maybe a sequel could have built upon the already tired story a little bit better. But as it stands, this ranks alongside those multiple Children of the Corn sequels as poor attempts to wring some more menace from a King concept that should simply stay buried and never come back.